All right, happy Friday, everyone. This is me just talking about the Janet Jackson Lifetime and A&E two-night documentary event. I actually went ahead and finished up last night. I think I had to watch, the back half of part 3 and the entirety of part 4. And let me just say, overall, I enjoyed it for what it was. Don't get me wrong. I think this was a pretty big event. And believe it or not, despite the 4 parts, basically totaling around 160 minutes, which, if I'm not mistaken, is about 2 hours and 40 minutes, give or take, basically a little under 3 hours. It kind of reminded me of what fans were saying after the New Edition story aired its 3-night event. When's the next part? Because it feels like, despite the length of the documentary, it just seems like there was a lot we just don't know. And I want to sit here and be honest with you. I'm a Janet Jackson fan, a bigger Michael fan than Janet Jackson, but being that I was born in 1991, I do remember a lot of these album releases, back when music videos were a big event, like Hey Janet or Mariah or, Ashanti, Nelly, or NSYNC, whoever. Whenever they released a music video, it was a big deal. And, the whole world would stop. It almost seemed, VH1, MTV, they would just have these big events. BET, 106 in Park, music video would go out, everybody would lose their mind. But I don't feel the documentary really focused on the music side as much as I wanted it to. Obviously, this felt more like an intimate, get to know me kind of documentary as opposed to the success. That's not to say the music didn't play a part in the documentary. Like the moment Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis showed up for the Rhythm Nation album and the following albums, that's when things, Control, then Rhythm Nation, that's when things really saw that, okay, Janet is coming into her own. It isn't about beating Michael, it's about being her own person, not getting far in the industry because of her last name, not because she's Michael Jackson's little sister. But, the thing about it is, it's hard to really come into your own when your older brothers were the Jackson 5, the Jacksons, and then you had Michael releasing the best-selling album of all time. How can you compete with that? And yet Janet did in her own way. I think, was it Jimmy that said it best? It's like, it wasn't about Janet beating Michael. It was about Janet beating her own expectations of herself, doing better than her last album. And what was it? Rhythm Nation outdid Thriller in terms of having the 7 singles go to the top 10, if I'm not mistaken, where Thriller only had, I believe, 5. But in any case, I want to shout out another YouTuber because he put out a video about 4 or 5 months ago, Calvin Michaels, and he did like a 2-hour video. Sometimes he does in-depth music videos where he talked about like Usher, TLC, just to name a couple off the top of my head. I think he even did one on Brandy, but he did one on Janet Jackson. And I feel if you're like me and you want to talk about Janet in regards to her impact on music, this is the video to go to. I will leave a link in the comment section below. Let me see again. It's Calvin Michaels. That's the name of the channel, but the title is So What Happened? Janet Jackson from All For You to Demita Joe Part 1 and 2. This video, it breaks down, of course, Janet's beginnings, but her impact in music, the Super Bowl stuff, how that impacted her on the radio side, television appearances, that kind of stuff. This was incredible, so I gotta shout him out. I highly urge you, if you enjoyed the Lifetime documentary, I really think you're going to enjoy this guy breaking it down even further. But regardless, going to like part 1, obviously, even though, I've looked at other people reviewing the documentary and I've read articles about it, and, part 1 definitely was more focused on the Jacksons, but I get it because, we all know the Jacksons. We don't need the history of the Jacksons. But when I looked at part 1 myself, I'm like, I understand people, because when you look at all 4 parts, if you're a Janet fan, we really didn't get much new. We didn't really get her talking about the Super Bowl event the way we wanted her to. I honestly don't think I ever heard about the whole secret baby thing. That's something I might have heard in passing, but I didn't really focus on that because when the news came out, I was just a little kid. I really didn't care. Or excuse me, when I was old enough to really follow the Jackson, like the behind the musics and whatnot, I really didn't care about that secret baby crap. I didn't know about the James DeBarge thing because, look, I'm an unsung junkie because I think DeBarge was the first episode of Unsung, the DeBarge family. I know down the road they had a Bobby DeBarge, aka Switch Unsung, and they also had the Bobby DeBarge Unsung movie, but I do believe that the DeBarges were the first episode of Unsung, hence why, it refreshed my memory. Oh yeah, she was married to one of the DeBarge brothers. But yeah, if you watch it, Jackson's The American Dream, a lot of this story you already know. But yeah, Joe doing his thing in regards to punishing the children. And I think there was a line where I did like how Janny and Randy were both involved, because to have her on this special, what was it? Janet, Randy, Reby, and Tito. But it was definitely Randy and Janet who had the strongest presence in regards to the parts, all four parts. But, it was mentioned that discipline without love is tyranny, and my father wasn't tyrannical. Now, I can't speak on Janet and Randy and how they were raised, because obviously that's not my family. But as someone from a black household that had to deal with discipline, my thing is this. I think the reason that Janet has a different... I feel like if you ask all the Jackson children, even Michael, rest his soul, I feel like they would all have a differing opinion on the discipline and how strict Joe was. Because, you can have children raised in the same house, but the experience is completely different. Due to the fact that by the time that Janet was born, I mean, she's like, one of the youngest Jacksons, if I'm not mistaken. Joe probably was tired, he just didn't have it in him to discipline her to the same level of Michael or Marlon or, Jermaine, Tito, and those who came before her. So, the discipline she experienced was probably not the same level of what seemed to be cruelty that the other kids did. And yeah, I get it. Joe Jackson, I have no doubt he wasn't the only father in their neighborhood where they grew up who was a disciplinarian. It's just that, being that they're superstars, that kind of behavior would be put in the limelight more than the, average everyday person in the neighborhood. But, his plan worked. His children gained success. But I think it was also mentioned, how Janet, as well as the other kids, I know Michael said this before, he just hated the fact that he couldn't call his father. It's like Joe. Or, the fact that they missed out on their childhood because they were working to be superstars. I know from the outside looking in, it's like, man, childhood's overrated. Better to be rich and wealthy than 6 kids in the same bedroom, that kind of thing. But, when you're a child, that really does shape how you view things in your adulthood. So, yeah, I just doubt that the discipline that, I'm pretty sure the discipline that Janet and Randy, the younger ones, went through were definitely not to the same level of strict that, the older Jackson kids were, LaToya, Reby, Tito, Jermaine, just to name a few. But I do feel like Janet definitely is her mother's daughter, because there were a lot of things that were touched upon, but Janet would either not talk about it or... But this was her story, though, I will say that. So, like Bobby Brown, people like, man, how come Bobby Brown wasn't mentioned? Well, think about it. You got James DeBarge, you had... what was the name of her second husband? The one that was really involved with her career. Let me see if I can get the name real quick in my notes. Renee. I didn't know he was that involved with her career, because I think that's the perfect blending. The fact that he wasn't just involved with Janet romantically, but he's behind some of the most iconic Janet music videos, the Rhythm Nation hand moving where you go 5, 4, 3. He shaped her career in so many ways, because I recall around the time they got that divorce, and I think my mom was watching the TV and whatnot, and it was the whole thing about him suing for, you know, like his likeness in regards to the fact that he really shaped her career. And I mean, truth be told, I think Renee did as, you know, big a job shaping Janet's career on the, like, the choreography, the music video side, just like the persona of Janet Jackson, in the same way that Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis shaped her musical side when it came to what they did in the studio working on the album. So yeah, I could definitely see how things could get messy in that divorce. You know, the fact that Janet admitted that she had, you know, a bit of naivety when it came to wanting to help someone who's struggling. And she had a thing where she was kind of attracted to men who had addictions. You know, James and Renee eventually was revealed to have like a painkiller addiction later on in his life. But then I believe she was also married to like a billionaire or something, but he wasn't mentioned at all. And I can understand, like, she just had the child and not wanting to show her child on television. That's completely understandable. I think we saw like a teddy bear and an Elmo toy, but Janet is still doing her thing in regards to, you know, touring and whatnot. And, you know, this really, I didn't look up the numbers, but I'm pretty damn sure Janet Jackson's music just exploded the moment the documentary came out. People went back to check out her music on like Spotify, Apple, and all that other stuff, because I knew Janet had hits, but when you look at her discography and whatnot, it's just amazing to me the number of songs that were just hits. She had so many albums, from Control, Rhythm Nation, the Janet album, the Velvet Rope, All For You, just smash after hit after hit after hit. And she definitely paved her way. But I want to talk about the Michael stuff too, because I remember before the documentary even came out, that one statement about how Michael would call her names and whatnot, and like hog and whatnot would hurt her, and people were like, what's going on? Oh, Janet's just trying to mess up her brother's legacy and whatnot. But she literally, and this is what people do when they, because somebody asked me, yo, I know you're a big Michael Jackson fan, what do you have to say about Janet saying that Michael would call her names? And I'm thinking to myself, first instinct is, well, yeah, I know Michael didn't like it when he got called names by his cousins or whatnot, when he was going through like acne and, you know, had pimples all over his face. Or, you know, obviously we saw what happened to him because he let other people's input on his looks change with the plastic surgery and whatnot. But as a younger brother myself, yeah, siblings do that kind of stuff. And she literally said it in the documentary. You know, yeah, that's sibling, brothers and sisters do. Sisters call brothers names, sisters call sisters name brother, and this and that. But even though we were just joking, sometimes those things stick with you. And, you know, like Renee would talk about her appearance and whatnot. Look, you gotta look at like how you look in the music videos 24/7, or at the very least when you go out into the world where people can see you. And it's interesting to me because I think, you know, Janet, I can definitely feel for her. Here's the way and this is just my opinion because I don't know the facts other than what we've heard in interviews and whatnot, documentaries. We know, you know, what Janet was saying about how after she let go of her father as her manager, because, you know, Joe was like, okay, the brothers fired me, so I'm going to go ahead and focus all my energy and attention into Janet and make her an even bigger star than Michael. In some ways, Janet did beat Michael in regards to certain records. Like, what was it? Her first tour was the biggest, like, introductory tour for an artist to this day. What was it? Rhythm Nation had more top 10, or was it top 5 hits than Thriller? But, and this isn't me diminishing Janet's success. Please don't get that twisted. But yeah, you know, Michael was Michael. So I will say this much. When you get to the Scream era, because of the fact that I do feel like it's messed up. It really is messed up, because I always hated the whole mentality of one apple ruins it for the whole bunch. Like, even going back to grade school, like, you know, back in the day where pizza parties would make kids lose their mind. Oh yeah, we got to be good all year, because if you're good, the last few days of the year, the last week of the year, we'll have a pizza party. And then, like, there's that one bad kid that will always get a yellow slip. I haven't heard yellow slip in so long. That's like, you know, back in school when you get disciplined, it's like, oh, you got a yellow slip, you got detention, you get suspended or whatever. There's always that, or hey, you got to write your name on the board because you got silent lunch, or that other bull crap. Basically, Janet was about to sign with Coca-Cola because, you know, her success, because the whole thing between Pepsi and the Jacksons, but she was about to get her own deal with Coca-Cola. But then right then the first allegations of her brother came out and Coke was like, nah, we don't want to sign. That is like a gut punch, because this was Janet when she was first coming into her own. Her music was blowing up, and then it wasn't just being Michael Jackson's little sister anymore. But then the allegations came out, and well, that just ruined everything. And then, of course, she did the Scream song with her brother in order to help his career, because that's what, you know, family's supposed to do, help each other out. And, you know, it was like, oh yeah, the industry was trying to separate us. It was like, you know, we were never really on set. Like, one of us would shoot in the morning, the other at night. And what should have been like a joint effort to help us both, to be a family thing, it was like the industry was trying to, you know, make us compete with each other. And that wasn't it at all. And I want to be honest here. As a kid, I think I liked the music video. But then as I got older, I just disliked the song. I think because I heard it so many times. But after Michael passed, and, you know, I really started to delve into his career and life more, I appreciate the song a lot more because I can understand the lyrics and the meaning to them. Because as a kid, the dancing itself was like the dance segment when they just break it down. That was my favorite part. But as an adult who fully understands, wow, okay, now I understand the meaning of this song. The lyrics are still relevant today, not just to Michael. But yeah, I just love that song. It's not my like top 5 Michael and Janet songs, but in terms of like the choreography and whatnot, it just shows you that Janet can stand toe to toe with her brother. It isn't just this is Michael Jackson's little sister. No, Scream was big because it was Michael and Janet and Michael. But let's talk about what would eventually become Janet talking about the one time she went to Michael Jackson's house, or her brother's house. What was it? It was her. It was all the brothers. They were coming to present an idea for all of them to go on tour. And Janet was like, I'd be honored to open for you. And Michael really didn't say anything. And it was like, you know, family shouldn't do that. Family, you know, was trying to help each other out. This is just my opinion. Now, one thing I've always wanted to know more about in regards to the Jackson family was, what was it like when Michael released Thriller? You know, Off the Wall was a big hit, but Thriller, it's like when you get to that point, what do you do? You know, like your brother put out the biggest album, and this was, you know, ever since he was 17 or whatnot, you know, lawyers would call captains saying, okay, tell the brothers save their money because Michael's going solo. The reason I feel Michael just didn't want to do that tour, even though I have no doubt it would have been a hit, it's because of the Victory Tour. The Victory Tour had so many problems, and I think the most damning thing for Michael was that he didn't go on a Thriller tour, but instead he agreed to do the Victory Tour with his brothers, which was a hot mess because on that tour, they really didn't do any of the Victory songs on that album. They just did, you know, their old hits, and then Michael would do Off the Wall and Thriller songs, and Jermaine would do his solo stuff. But if Michael went on a Thriller tour, I'm pretty sure that would have did numbers. Of course, the Bad Tour exploded, but that was because it was long anticipated. But if Michael jumped on the wave that was Thriller instead of, I feel like because Michael, even though Janet, I can completely understand her perspective of family helping family, I don't know if she truly understood how Michael felt, because he put his solo aspirations on hold for so long. Because like in the Jacksons' American Dream, you could always tell when like his mom, he was always listening to his mother for the most part. Michael, come on, this would be good for the family. They need you. It's just one of those things where Michael sacrificed a lot for all of his brothers and whatnot. And I don't think Janet understood that. And again, I wasn't there, but I'm only talking from what I looked at and what I know from other documentaries and whatnot. But I will say this much. If nothing else, Michael should have been like, Janet, I think we should go on tour, because Janet was the only Jackson outside of Michael with a notable career, one that was big enough for Janet to say, Michael, let's do this song Scream together. That way we can get your side of it out. You know, you can talk about the media, the press, and everything they're doing, and we can do this together. And also the fact I wholeheartedly agree, you should have fought that case instead of doing the settlement out of court. I think, what was it in one documentary, one of Michael's friends said, yeah, He didn't want to settle, but they said you got to settle so you can go back on tour. But he should have definitely fought in order to make it seem like, you know, he was definitely innocent as opposed to paying out. And then after that, I think comedians like Steve Harvey and a few others said this in regards to how Michael handles kids. But after that one allegation, you should have just pulled the plug. No more kids at the house. Like, you know what? Just no. I mean, sure, if you want to have Neverland stuff, yeah, do that. But nobody's saying, you know, in order to avoid any other, you know, sketchy situations. But aside from that, you know, Janet is still going strong in music, you know, inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And we talked about the acting career. Tyler Perry had a moment where he talked about people is just an effing nipple, because she was in the What for Colored Girls and both of the Why Did I Get Married movies. And remember, Tyler teased us on a Why Did I Get Married Again, like a third installment. So I wonder if that's going to be worked on or even released later this year. Only time will tell. But I do feel like Janet Jackson's career goes beyond just music. It's just the impact she's had on so many artists that followed behind her. And the documentary, like I said, I thought it was pretty good, but I do feel like the one I referred you all to at the beginning by Calvin Michaels, that's the one you definitely want to look at if you want to get an in-depth look at Janet's impact in the music industry, radio play, the way other artists were influenced by her. I would highly recommend that one over the Janet one, because some people have been saying if you read Janet, if you read her book, or if you're a fan that follows the Jackson family, we really didn't learn anything we didn't already know from previous documentaries. I believe there was a behind the music special on Janet back in the day, and most of the stuff from this special you could definitely get from that. But you know, we got appearances by Catherine a couple of times, and like I said, you had Tito, Reby, Randy as well. But I think my favorite moments, just to wrap up the video, definitely seeing the moments between Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis and Janet in the studio, when Michael came in to work on Scream. That was some beautiful scenes. Just seeing, you know, kind of like archives of Jackson footage we just I don't think we've ever seen it online or in person before. That was good stuff. Janet and her dedication to finding her own voice. But the sad part is, for a woman who sang about control, you know, her first big album was Control, and, you know, speaking out, doing your own thing, coming out of the shadows of the Jacksons, that kind of thing. It didn't seem like she had much control over her own life, because it felt like men had a bigger grip on her life, whether she liked it or not, from her father to struggling to keep her first husband James in line with his addiction. Renee was, well, in a way, he was responsible for really shaping the Janet we all know. And then, of course, you know, the whole Justin Timberlake situation. And then you had, you know, men in the industry, radio, music, just kind of shutting her down. So, and then, of course, you know, the Michael allegations led to her losing out on some big opportunities too. So it really is sad, but it was a story of triumph, if you ask me. But with that being said, that's really all I have to say about the Janet special. It was really good, but I do think that it really should have showcased more about Janet and her life and her success. But I think it did what it was supposed to do for like the everyday person. But if you're a diehard Jackson fan, you know there's more that, you know, we wanted to see. But let me know your thoughts on the documentary in the comment section below. Make sure you take a moment to hit the thumbs up button to show you like the video. Hit subscribe. We are less than 175 people away from 200,000 subscribers here on the channel. Follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. Hit the bell icon and select all. That way you don't miss out when I post content on the channel. And if you would like to donate, feel free to do so on PayPal or Cash App.